Hello and welcome to the Petanque Show with me, David Plumoff. Today, I am delighted to welcome Toni Gates to the camera. Toni is the lead, as the MYA lead, which is the National Youth Academy. Today, we're going to be diving a little deeper into her role with the MYA and just how our juniors are shaping up. So without further ado, let's welcome Toni. Hello, Toni.
Hi, Dave. It's great to be here.
Great to see you as well. So you're looking very smart today. It looks like you've got, is that a new jacket? Is that new kit?
It is. This is actually, I stopped sorting out the Juniors 2021 kit to do the interview with you today.
Oh, wow.
And so this is part of the new kit. We've got kit from Macron this year, and the kit's going to run straight across all of the squads. This, I don't know how well you can see it, is the jacket.
Yeah,
It's got
nice.
England on the back, and here's the tops.
Oh wow, they're nice.
Like that. And for the juniors this year, we've gone one step further because I think kit's quite an important thing, and we've got them track pants as well.
Oh wow.
Which are those?
So that isn't actually part of the adults kit at the moment.
That I can't say. I think it's down to each of the squad leads whether they decide to have the trousers or not. I think it's an important thing. I think that the teams should go out looking really smart and unified.
Absolutely.
But we're pleased with it. We have that, and we also have a training kit, and our training kit is sponsored by Samuel Jacks. Which actually, surprisingly enough, I have on underneath. And that's very similar to what the actual championship kit will be.
Yeah, that's cool.
We like for all our players to be out in kit whenever they're representing the MYA. Yeah. So, it's a good move with the kit. It's a nice kit, and everyone should look really smart in that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you know my views, and I think it's paramount actually that everyone has full kit. That's from training tops to match kit to bottoms to even a bag. I just think it looks so professional, and when you look smart, you automatically feel better and you play better. So I think it's a good move. Hopefully, the adult teams or the S-bars or whatever can add that to their equipment as well, having the trousers. So that's really good.
It would be nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's start with a bit about yourself. So you're in charge of the National Youth Academy. That's right, isn't it?
I am. Yeah, I'm the lead.
You're the lead. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. But what is your part in the organisation, and can you tell me a little bit about how it all started?
Okay. Well, originally this was the sort of idea from Matt Blyton, going back a number of years now. And his principle was that players shouldn't be disadvantaged because of where they lived in the country. And so he set out with what I think was then the National Junior Squad. It's had a few name changes over the years. And over the years, it's also developed. And we now end up with the National Youth Academy. That's the umbrella that fits over all of our youth play. My job as the lead of that is basically to oversee everything. All the final responsibility sits on my shoulders. Within the National Youth Association Academy, we run competitions. We have the Junior Championship, singles, doubles, precision shooting. But then from there, we have our National Youth Squad, and that's our international representational squad. We select a number of juniors that we think are capable of international play or are on the doorstep of international play, and then we bring them on and prepare them for that. The other side of the academy is the National Development Squad. We have a super team that are running that. I'm actually the lead for the National Youth Squad, and the lead for the National Development Squad is Kath Knight. Her other senior coaches are Brian Stoke, Phil Border, Chris Garrett, and then there's another team sort of coming up below those. They're working on the grassroots juniors. They're setting out some fantastic programs for this year. working quite closely with the regions. We're setting up a pack for if regions want to know more about how to work with the juniors, how to get the best from them, any sort of support. We can give them this pack and that helps them with that. We're also looking within the National Development Squad to run competitions and coaching days that are open to any junior, whether they have a license or not. But it's people who are in the National Youth Squad aren't eligible for this. So this is solely to work on the social grassroots and up and coming players, providing lots more opportunities for those. But also within the development squad, they will pick a small group of players that are of quite a competitive nature, that wants to develop a little bit more, learn the more advanced skills, things like that, possibly in future moving on to the actual National Youth Squad. So we've got lots of things going on at lots of different levels. Most of my work at the moment is with the National Youth Squad, working with our championship coaches who are Scott Ashby and Roland Jones. Now that's kind of everything in a nutshell, really.
Yeah, that's everything. So would you say the hardest part of like this type of umbrella is getting more juniors to play the sport? Is that something that's very difficult at the moment?
I think in general it's difficult to get juniors into the sport because they have schoolwork. I think the way things are in this day and age, computer technology and things takes over a lot for them. But we're also competing against things like football, cricket, all of the big sports that they play at school. We find once juniors tend to get into it, they stay into it with us.
Yeah.
But it is actually getting the interest in the first place. And that's something else that our National Development Programme are actually working on. But it is one of the hardest parts of the job.
Yeah, I can imagine. I know from my own experience that I got through it from word of mouth, basically. Being friends with Graham Galton, and I was 15 at the time, so I was a junior, but I was an older junior, and I mean, the first time I went, I was hooked. I mean, I don't know if that's the same for everyone else, but I just enjoyed it so much. Even though I was a really good footballer at the time, I still thought, I love this game. I want to continue playing it, and that's how I basically got into it. So. I think tapping into schools is something that I suppose you've probably already looked into, or the regions are trying to look into.
It's a really difficult one because you think that's the ideal thing, but you also have to provide some sort of program, some sort of place that they can play, all of the equipment. You're then fighting against the after school gymnastics, football, and all of that type of thing. Personally, I think going down the route of Cubs, Beavers, Guides, along those lines would be better way of doing it.
Yeah.
But we're looking down sort of all different routes at the moment. Within PE, there's a subgroup that are looking at a schools development programme. So hopefully that will get sort of some progress and we can get some more juniors in there. But it is definitely a difficult thing. Also, what a lot of people don't really think about is if we get them in as juniors, we have them for a number of years, develop them. Just normally, as they're really coming good, is the time when they move on from us and we lose them. They move into espoirs. But espoirs have their own problems because then they're facing having to go to work, less time to play the sport, off to university, don't have the same opportunities.
Yeah.
So I think a lot more needs to be done to try to encourage the espoirs as well, because the juniors get a lot of the focus. And I think a lot of the members often overlook the espoirs due to the problems that they have as well.
Toni, we've seemed to have lost you there. You're not, can you speak? I can't hear
Sorry.
you. There we go, that's better.
Is that better?
Yeah, I didn't hear that last bit, sorry.
Yeah, I think a lot of members can tend to overlook the problems that the espoirs have in keeping their membership. It's not always a case of work not being put into them, but there's not the base of the players as well. So I think across the board, we need to look at how we can introduce more people into the sport.
Could we, is there not any plans to maybe have the MYA up to 23 years old. Is that not something that's being looked at? Is that something that could keep everyone together and create a program for everyone?
I've been talking quite a lot with Paul Lancaster and Colin Roper, who are the Espoirs coaches, and we're going to be working a lot closer together this year. It's not an official move to amalgamate the things, but both groups actually feel that there should be a little bit more fluidity as people move through the stages out of Espoirs into senior play, and again from seniors into veteran play. So there's definitely a move going that way.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. It's almost similar to football, going from under 18s to reserve team football to first team football. I think that transition and having the same plan throughout will make it an easier transition as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on a little bit. We've had a good talk about the MYA and what it is. So as you're obviously aware, 2020 was a complete write-off for most people, nearly everyone. But how did you, as the MYA, make use of it? Did you have training programs or individual programs for your players?
Yeah, I mean, for us personally, it wasn't a complete write-off.
Okay.
In many ways, it's the best year that we've ever had. Despite actually losing the ability to play and things like that. And also for me, one of the worst parts of 2020, as an example, is we've got or had last year a lad, part of our squad called Luke Thornton, comes from Kent. It was his first year in the national youth squad. Absolutely superb lad, very dedicated, really good attitude. His ability to high lob is absolutely brilliant. It was his last year and he completely lost the chance of youth championship play through no fault of his own. So things like that were crippling for us. But it enabled us to start doing Zoom calls, something which was really alien to me and absolutely hated to start with. But what we've done, originally we had what was called the lockdown squad, so any junior could join who wanted to. We had weekly meetings, just got together, chatted about ball, talked about different aspects, the mental side of the game, nutrition, techniques, things like that. As lockdown eased a little bit, we done some one-to-one virtual coaching. And then it got to the point where play could start a tiny bit more. And so we then split into our national youth squad and our development squads. The national youth squad, we continued working on Zoom. We've had monthly squad Zoom meetings, which last 4 hours. We cover long meetings, but it's surprising how quick they go. But they're replacing what would have been our in-person squad meetings. We cover things like dealing with the pressure of the crowd. We watch videos of international play and look at the response of the crowd sometimes supporting the home nation and the effects that it has on their opposition. We're absolutely really privileged to have Scott and Roland as part of the team. And then they share very honestly with the juniors their experiences with things like this. And so it's giving the juniors a much deeper insight into what it's going to be like at this level. We've been dealing very much with the mental side of the game, the mental approach to actually playing, the routines that you need to get into, consistency and things like that, but also dealing with the slumps of playing. What happens if you get out there, you freeze, you don't play well? You know, how do you still be part of the team? We're covering things like the importance of being the fourth player on the sidelines, how you can influence the team. So it's given us a real opportunity to deal with these things in depth, things that you perhaps mention whilst you're coaching on the piste, but never really sort of get a grip of it. We've had guest speakers come in. We've had Gareth Sullivan talking about umpiring, and Jeremy Huntley's joined us, you know, talking about his experiences playing. Jeremy, as you know, is quite a character, sort of on and off the piste. and he's sort of shared with the juniors different mind games at times that either he's played or had played against him. And really, really importantly, it's given us the ability to really learn about our players. And I've always prided myself in getting to know the squad members, but this has taken it to another level. And it's also given the players the opportunity to really get to know their championship coaches. Now, most of them, you know, they know Scott quite well because he's been involved for the last few years now. But Roland joined us in the middle of the pandemic. And so he's been working with a squad that he's never met in person yet. But by the time they actually get out on the piste, they're going to be incredibly comfortable, and they are already a unit. And so for us, 2020 brought lots and lots of benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds fantastic, actually. And I know Scott and Rowley obviously very well, and they're so important to the game in general, not just to the juniors. And I think any snippets of advice that they give them, I mean, as long as they take them on board, I mean, it's going to be invaluable, really.
Yeah, we've been very lucky over the last few years. The input from a lot of the international senior players has been fantastic. We've had our squad days where we've had Sam Blakey, Reece Gold, Sarah Huntley, Emma Longstaff, Jason White, players like that. They come and they play with our squad competitively against each other. And the benefits of that it is fantastic. And as I say, you know, Scott and Roland, the insight they give into their own game, including their worst failures and, you know, things like that. It's a knowledge that you just couldn't get out of a book. It really is a huge benefit.
Okay. So yeah, no, that's fantastic. So obviously with that, do you set goals and targets during lockdown? Did you like speak to them and say, right, we want you to develop this, and can you let us know how it's going? Or do you have some sort of a way of make sure the targets are met?
Yeah, it's before the lockdown, we've always had home training. They have set training routines that vary different months, and it's for them to develop the skills in between the coaching days that we have. So how could we transfer that into lockdown when nobody could actually go out and play at all was really hard. But we came up with things like they had to use a doormat as a landing spot and then practice hitting their landing spot. So it was things that people, you know, could do on grass, on gravel, you know, if they didn't have a piste at home. As lockdown eased, the training routines got harder and more sort of task specific. And they have to now post those to our Facebook page. They video them and actually post what they're doing. So they have the pressure of the rest of the squad actually seeing how they do. And it gives the coaches the opportunity to evaluate what they've been doing as well. And we're now just starting this month. We're having a virtual competition between the boys and the girls doing different tasks. And they're going to be doing that a couple of times a month, which you have to absolutely commend their dedication because they've been doing most of this throughout the winter months. Poor Ella Slade, bless her, she usually goes and practices down near the coast where she is. And in one of her training videos, she was almost getting blown off the piste. But, you know, they go out religiously and do this. So their progress is still being monitored. And they're really making the absolute most of the situation that they can.
Yeah, that dedication and desire is so important. And I suppose it's keeping that dedication and desire to want to play when they reach, say, 18, 19 years old, when they want to go out and enjoy time with their friends. So I think tapping into them now while they're young and making sure that look what you can achieve and look how important it is to have this dedication, hopefully will keep them in the game for a lot longer. And hopefully that transition to adult life. Because one thing I always found with going from a junior to an adult is who wants to play with me and why would they want to play with me? So I think that's something that we need to, like you say, address with that transition.
Absolutely. I think what the juniors are having to go through at the moment with the lockdowns and all of this, I think we're going to see different juniors coming through. I think their resilience is going to be so much better because they have still coped with all of this. I mean, another example is Tegan Finley from Kent. I think she's 11. And she was joining our main squad meetings every week when we were in lockdown. She didn't know anybody, bless her. She was as nervous as anything. But every week she turned up. She got a little bit more confident as the weeks went on. Every opportunity to go and practice, she went out and done it. If you're starting out against that sort of pressure, it can only get better for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think the point that you said about, you know, as you were transitioning into adults who wants to play with you, that's another thing that I was saying about the S squads. That's a group that's very much forgotten by people. People are really, really good and really will help the juniors. And a lot of the top internationals in this country, you know, they'll say, oh, come and play with us. And that is fabulous. And I'm so grateful for it. But then they just tilt the balance and move into espoirs, using again Luke, for example.
Yeah.
We never had the opportunity to showcase him. So all of the players out there, unless you're in his region, you're not really going to know him. So how's he going to get those sort of opportunities as well?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, hopefully people watching this will maybe give Luke a message if they want to play with him. You know, it's a great way of tapping into people when people are watching. You know, that it's a good advertisement as well for the players out there. So
I mean, I would strongly encourage experienced players, whether they're international or just experienced club players, you know, because you can learn something from everybody.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, to not be frightened to ask people to play with them. I think it's a really important part of learning and keeping our sport going. It's to make the effort to try to encourage other people.
Yeah, that's great. So in 2020, was it the first year that squads were segregated between girls and boys?
It was, yeah.
How has that been?
Well, it's something I was against. I didn't want the segregation. I don't think I can understand why the CEP did. There's a lot of nations that don't give the equal opportunity to their female juniors. So it doesn't matter how good you are, you're not getting in the national team, and that's that.
Not right, is it?
So I can understand why they done it, but for the flip side of it, our juniors have equal opportunities. And I think it holds back some female juniors because they could have been in world championship teams or things like that. And they're not going to be in them because they're not getting the same sort of integration with the boys throughout the year. We've tried to address that as much as we can. And although we've worked with the boys and the girls separately, we are also trying to make them one united squad, because with the juniors, we're in the unique position now of 1 year we have to work with 2 segregated squads, boys and girls, for the Europeans. Then the next year we have to flip back to a combined squad and work to pick a mixed team for the World Championships.
Oh, is it only the CEP then that is segregated?
Yes, World Championships are still mixed. So we have to have sort of like a 2-year program where you work with them separately and mix together. So it's quite challenging.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have to give full credit to our girls squad this year, or last year, because our last year's squads are going forward to this year's Europeans. The girls has Ella Slade, who I think everyone's probably heard of Ella. Sophie Rowley, Jane Geddes, and Francesca Evans-Jones. And the other 3 girls are fairly new or inexperienced at higher levels. The work that they've put in during all the lockdown, initially with Scott and latterly with Roland, I've never seen a team progress quite the way that they have. Last year, I'd said to them, it's very unlikely that I will send you to the European Championships. We'll prepare for it, but I don't think that you will make the level that you need to be to go next year. By the end of last year, they were really giving the boys a run for their money. And it just shows, if the people have the dedication and they're given the opportunities, the improvement that can actually come through. So this year we are in the really bizarre situation of having to work with a boys squad and a girls squad, and then a mixed squad for the World Championships all in 1 year. So that makes planning and preparation without the pandemic difficult, but we're getting there.
That's good. So did you have any are there any stumbling blocks with parents and stuff like that? Because does everyone who's in the squads, do their parents play the game, or is there any in the squad that their parents don't play the game?
No, not all parents play. There's usually a link somewhere within the family that somebody has played, and that's how they've got into it. With parents, I think in any walk of life, you're going to have stumbling blocks with parents. Some parents want their children to do well so much that it's hard for them to not push them. There are the ones that aren't involved in the sport, so don't really see the importance of it. We're very lucky. The majority of our parents are really supportive of their children. They'll drive them about wherever they have to go. They give up hours of their time taking them out, filming them doing their home training. A few of the parents either have over the last year or in the process of putting peace into the garden, so the juniors can keep up all of their practice and everything. So it is, on the whole, it works well with the juniors. When it doesn't, we then take the time to talk with the parents and find out what the problems are and do our best to resolve it.
Okay, brilliant. So what would you say are the expectations for this year's international championships? Can you dive into that? Are you allowed to talk about what your expectations are
from the team if they get there?
Yeah, so basically, so the men's, ladies, and combined for the Worlds and Euros. Do you have set expectations for them at the moment?
We always aim for getting into the main.
Yeah.
We've not quite managed it yet. Our closest was in Spain at the Europeans when we got the gold in the Nations Cup. That, I think, was probably one of the tournaments when we had our best team prepared to go, and then a set of various different events happened that was out of our control. Yeah. And we probably had the worst tournament we could have started off having. But then as the tournament went on and it was loss after loss after loss, the preparation, and especially on the mental side of things, started to kick in. Their faith in Scott as their coach is what made the difference. And they actually turned it around. And then, if you're not going to make the main, win the Nations Cup. And that's what they did. But yeah, our goal is always to get into the main. With the World Championships, that's a very, very big ask. I think this year, between the girls and the boys for the World Championships, we definitely have a team with the ability to do so. I think we're going to have a team with the mental ability to do so. It just depends on how much such a long lockdown period is going to affect the actual standard of play. But then that's not till the end of the year. So if that goes ahead, then hopefully we've been able to catch up, and we stand a good chance of being competitive out there. For the European Championships for the girls, it's impossible to say because it's the first one ever.
Yeah.
So we have no idea of what anybody else is capable of. But we will be sending a girls team that is more than prepared in ability to hold their own.
Yeah.
And it will be a really interesting one to see what the other nations put forward, because their female representatives are usually very low in numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully good luck to them. Well, where are they this year, and when are they?
They are the first week of June, and they are in Spain, Santa Susana.
Okay. Oh, San Susanna, yeah, played there. Lovely. If it's the same place, it's lovely. So yeah, moving on then. Uh, so let's talk about budgets. Let's talk about the MYA and budgets. How do the MYA generate money, and how do they spend it, basically?
Okay, well, we get a set budget from Patong England. This year's been very difficult with the pandemic, with whether people will renew their membership or not, because that has a big factor in how much money we can get. PE are always very supportive of the juniors. Where we've tripped ourselves up a little bit over the last few years is within the NYS or the NYA in general. We've moved our goalposts and we've tried to do so much more. We've tried to prepare the juniors so much better, rather than just getting a team, perhaps, sending them to one event and then going out to the championships. We've actually wanted to prepare them properly, and this all comes at a cost. I mean, European championships usually come in at somewhere around £4,000, maybe plus, to attend the event. So that's 2/3 of the budget usually gone just on that. So the additional things that we do, we usually have to do some sort of fundraising. We have a raffle down at the interregionals, which of course we didn't get last year. We have a couple of sponsors that help us out each year, and these people wish to remain anonymous and have done this for the last few years now, and their support is really very much appreciated. And the general membership are really very good. Like yourself, when you were doing your online events, you kept, trickling little bits of money our way, things like that. People are very kind. Steve Harris from Samuel Jacks donates all of our training kit for nothing. He's done that for a couple of years now. That saves us huge amounts of money. We had somebody make calendars for us this year, sell those for fundraising. So we make up most of our other work like that. There was a point over the last year when we thought we may be very underfunded. So I then spoke to the juniors and told them that for the first time we were going to have to try to self-fund the championship event. So all of the juniors were given the task to try to raise some money towards their trip, because also this year we had the addition of an extra championship. So we usually have the Europeans and the Worlds. We'd got 2 Europeans and the Worlds. So for as much as PE wants to support us, you can't just keep finding all this extra money. The juniors, fantastic. They have been working so hard at raising their own funds. I mean, Ella, for example, has been making jam, making cakes, things like that. Jane Geddes, she's been out and done a presentation to her school, done a proper PowerPoint presentation, and then the school are actually setting up now some fund that will continue to support players at their school in various sports and things like that. So we take on lots of different things to fundraise, but we try to do as much as we can with the money that we've got. And then we always try to raise a bit more money so we can do a little bit more. As it worked out last year, we couldn't actually do anything. So we've got a little bit of money to see us through. And as soon as things get going again this year, then the fundraising will start again, because it's a continual thing year after year.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you know what your budget will be for this year then? Have you already had that set out? Is it increasing? Is it?
It's a difficult one. What we've been able to do is carry over some of last year's budget to this year, because last year's championship has actually been postponed to this year. So that money comes forward with it, which then allows us this year's budget to deal with the World Championships. So the budget this year has stayed pretty much the same in a roundabout way. But moving forward, it's going to depend a great deal on membership numbers, whether a lot of members choose not to rejoin again during the pandemic. some players may choose not to rejoin at all, then you get new players coming in. So it's hard to tell or predict what the budgets will be in the future, but we will do our best to make up whatever shortfall that there may be. And I think players on the whole, including the juniors, they do have a responsibility as well to fund certain things. I don't think they can expect everything to be
on a plate. So do you think Petanque England as an organisation in general could do a lot more for promoting and creating more money through sponsorship than what they already do? Which I think is a difficult one.
It's definitely difficult. I think PE have been quite open in the fact that that's an area in which they're lacking. This last year, I've been on the board for the first time. I thought I'd done a lot of work as head of the NYA, but seeing the volume of work that some of the board members do, it's absolutely immense. So many people can only do so many things. If you're not careful, what you end up doing is everyone does a little bit of something and nothing ever gets done very well. And there's been a change in how things are being approached, and each new task that's being taken on now is got a new fresh look to it. And I think on the whole is being done in a more productive way, and promotion and that type of thing is something that is there, that is being looked at. Not got it cracked yet, but there's certainly different things. Barry Wing is someone who's got 1,000,001 different ideas on this, but again, the pandemic put a halt to a lot of those sort of things. So we are starting to move forward, but I do think an important part of that is actually projecting the sport in a professional way. I think there should always remain the leisure side of the game, but if we actually want to move forward and get proper sponsorship, and it be more than, oh, somebody I know, he's got a company, he'll give you some money. If we want proper sponsorship, we have to start putting forward a proper sort of look to the game.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. It's something that I've always been, it's something that it always, it's about, basically when I was younger, my dad walked past me playing petanque in a tournament in Southampton, because he was out walking the dog. And he said, because he's been involved in football all his life, and he was like, how can this ever grow if you don't wear kit? He was like, look at you, you're all in jeans, t-shirt. He said, you don't know who's playing who, you don't know what game's going on. He was like, something's got to be done there. And I've always thought about that, and not just in terms of kit, because although that is a good starting point, I just think the whole structure of the game just needs a bit of a revamp in England. That's what I personally think. And that's always like been on my mind about what he said about that, because he was like, I don't know who's playing who. If I wanted to turn up just to have a look, see what's going on, I wouldn't have a clue. He was like, I don't know what is going on here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, going back, probably 15 more years now, I played in a competition in Leicester Square, and it was run by the French consulate there. And they basically laid carpet down on the grass in Leicester Square and then just threw bags of gravel over the top. Bounciest terrain I think I've ever played on. But the amount of people walking past and stopping and looking. But as you say, for anybody who didn't know, they would have no real way of following the game. And I think that kit is quite a big part of that. I think when you go down the pub and you're just having a friendly game, or maybe a local league game, it's great. You don't have to get dressed up. But I think when you're putting on bigger tournaments, I think a lot more time should be put into what's the overall appearance that event is going to put out.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that in terms of sponsorship, I do think there is something we can get. I think there is a lot out there that we can get back from companies. It's just putting in I know it's difficult because we all have families, jobs, and it's not a paid experience. But I know for a fact that just talking to different people, that there are a lot of companies out there, especially because of the pandemic, that want to get their company out there again and get making money again. And I think if we can just put in that little bit extra 10%, 20%, and literally it's almost like cold calling in some ways, but just not taking no for an answer, just going to this person, that company, this company, and trying to sell the sport as much as possible.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, unfortunately, with that, it's the sort of job that's demoralizing, you know. Despite how much I keep asking people to support the MYA, it's something I hate doing.
I know that feeling.
And I was talking to you in the week about it. Yeah, you know, it's horrible. And for me, I do it because I'm doing it for the juniors, and my passion for them is so great that, you know, it overcomes my dislike of keep saying to people, can you support us? But to actually, you know, be asking people for big sponsorship and get knocked back, you know, so what it really takes is for somebody who does that sort of thing as a job, or, you know, it's a bit like politicians, you know, you have to be a certain type of person to be a politician. I think you have to be a certain type of person that's good at getting fundraising and, you know, getting funding in and things. So if there's people out there who like that sort of thing, enjoy that sort of thing, get in touch with Clive De Silva. I mean, the president, he's extremely open to suggestions and ideas and taking on new help. But it's going to be, I think, a collective thing and not something that's going to be solved quite quickly.
No, yeah, absolutely. When I had my interview with Martin Hughes, I said to him that it's not always about just having a person in place to do the job. It's about having the right person in place to do the job. And for a membership or of like upwards of 2,500, or, you know, we in general, take away the membership numbers, there's probably over 3,000 people that are playing the game and probably look at Petanque England. There's got to be someone out there that's role in their working life is marketing, promoting, and things like that. And it's about just even getting advice from them. I think it's important.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It is definitely getting the right people in the right jobs. And unfortunately, as you say, people have really busy lives. But, you know, if the right people can just give a little bit of their time collectively, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. It can definitely elevate the sport. I think that's it. So I just want to talk to you about membership at the moment. About do you believe that we need to go down the route of tiered membership or a restructure in how we do that? If I remember you said just a minute ago about it's not about like not caring about the leisure player, but about elevating the sport into a more professional light. Do you think tiered membership would do that? Will help that?
This is one of those rare things where I actually sit on the fence. I usually have a very strong view one way or the other on most things, but I see the benefits for tiered membership, but I also see the arguments for keeping it as it is. What I do think that we need to do is start looking at our sport a little bit differently now. I think there's quite a common misconception that everybody wants to be out and wants to play in big competitions and wants to drive for an hour or two and, you know, pay however much it is, 30 odd pound to enter, and see the top players there. And I think the reality is not everybody wants to do that. Yeah. There's a certain amount of people that are happy to drive 10 minutes down the road or walk down to their local club and play against their friends. And I think one of the biggest clubs in the country is at Milton Keynes. And I can't even hazard a guess at how many members they have now, the most of which are retired, and they play nearly every day during the week down there. Huge club, really well supported. Minute amount of people from that club wish to play at higher levels. Yeah. So I think we need to restructure things so we're giving those type of players what they want, as well as I'll call it middle of the table players who are interested in competitive play but still want to play maybe just regionally. And then there are up the ladder sort of section with our international players. They need a different type of approach to the sport. So if tiered licensing is what provides that for all of the different groups, then I'm all for the tiered membership. Looking at it from a board point of view, if we had tiered membership with different prices, then we could end up losing a lot of income, because a lot of players may choose to go for the lower level license. So that then has other implications. So we have to then look at how we change other things in the sport to accommodate for that loss of income. Because whilst I think that maybe the leisure player shouldn't have to pay a great big license fee, I also don't think that the international players should pay an extortionate fee either. So somehow we have to readdress the sport throughout the levels. But I'm certainly not opposed to tiered membership at all. I just think it needs an awful lot of thought put into it. And it's not something that you can just go, oh, right, we're going to do this. You have to look at all the implications of it.
Yeah, absolutely. No.
I think now, though, is probably the time with the lockdown and everything, and that this sport's almost going to be reborn again once, we start. So if we're going to be making big changes, I think now's as good a time as any to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I don't disagree with anything you've said there. You've made some good points. My views on it. I don't really want to dive into that because I'm interviewing you. So one day you can interview me. But I don't disagree with anything you've said. I do believe there needs to be a bit more of a restructure overall in terms of the calendar. I have this real, not gripe, but it's real weird. It's really odd that we have this notion that we can't clash tournaments. And I just always think that at the end of the day, the most important part of the game, in my opinion, not just because I'm up there, I thought this when I was younger, and even a budding footballer, I always knew the top was the most important. I just think that the calendar just needs to be a bit more not weighted, sorry, that's the wrong word, have a bit more bespoke to what you want to do, and put the emphasis on the person rather than Petanque England creating a calendar that's so diverse and that nothing is clashed. I just think that if you want to become an international player, you want to play for England, then you're going to have to choose between that Open on that Sunday or the national event. That's what I believe.
I actually agree with you there. I think for quite a while, perhaps when the sport wasn't as big as it is now, there was quite a lot of players who resented the fact that they might not be able to play in everything, because that's what they'd always done. It had been that small. When you go back maybe 15 years, the number of events on the PE calendar, it wouldn't have been PE then, but it was so much smaller. There wasn't all the championships that there is now. Back then, there was a lot more local club events, half of the regional events. I mean, when I got involved, I think there was the regional triples, regional doubles, and I think that was perhaps all of the actual regional events. There's now singles, doubles, mixed doubles, ladies events, men events, all just within regional play. Then you move up into the nationals and you get the same, the singles, the mixed, the doubles. Then you have your international qualifiers. You now at championship level don't just have world or European. You have junior, S-bars, seniors, veterans, men's, women's, mixed doubles, singles, and it goes on. And so I think it has come to a point where players have to then start choosing, appreciate we can't do everything, and then work out what they want to focus most of their time on.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Toni, we will leave it there. It's good to finish on that note. I appreciate you coming on. Is there anything you want to say to anyone, any of the juniors while you're on here, people watching? Maybe shout out to your page, your Facebook page, or?
No, I don't want to do any shout outs for the squad stuff because I do enough of that anyway. I would like to just thank everybody who does support the juniors. I would like to ask people, putting my board head on again now, it's a really difficult time right now. It was only when I joined the board that I realised quite how much work gets put in. It's not always what I personally agree with, but you try to do things for the good of everybody. So I would ask people, if they don't like something that's going on, actually go down the right channels, contact Clive or the secretary, put forward their grievance, and see if there's a way that they can help resolve whatever it is that they're unhappy with. because I genuinely think now's the time to turn our sport for the good. And I think if we all try and move forwards together, then, you know, we're going to come out of this much better and much stronger sport.
Yeah.
And picking up on something you said about interviewing you one day, I'd like to extend an invite to you to join one of our squad meetings one day and be interviewed by all our juniors.
Yeah, that'd be great. Fantastic.
Excellent. I look forward to it.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, Toni, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you very much. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Dave. Bye.